Hello and welcome to the Yellow Duke, Scotland. In this video I will be visiting Ruthven Barracks. The impressive ruins of Ruthven Barracks are to be found high on the top of a natural mound near the town of Kingussie. They were built in 1721 in response to the Jacobite Rising of 1715. A small force was garrisoned here to police the area. The barracks were only in use for 25 years. Two large three-storey blocks housed the troops. There was room for 2 companies of soldiers, 120 men. The enclosure between the blocks was used as a parade ground. Other buildings in the compound were a bakehouse, a brewhouse, a prison cell, a well, and the soldiers' latrines. There was also a stable for the dragoons' horses. The most dramatic time in the barracks' history was during the 1745 Jacobite Rising. Bonnie Prince Charlie landed in Scotland in July of that year and raised an army. In August 1745, they tried to capture Ruthven Barracks, but failed. The main reason for this was because the Jacobites did not at this point have any artillery. The Jacobite army moved on, marching into England as far south as Derby before deciding to turn back. In February 1746, they were back at Ruthven Barracks, but this time with heavy guns. Seeing this, the commander of the garrison, Lieutenant Molloy, knew that he could not withstand a long siege. But he wouldn't surrender without being fired on, so the Jacobites fired 3 token rounds with a 6-pounder cannon, which was positioned where the car park is now. The garrison then surrendered. Bonnie Prince Charlie torched the barracks to prevent it being used by government forces and retreated north to Inverness.
Two months later, on Wednesday the 16th of April 1746, Bonnie Prince Charlie and his Jacobite army were defeated at the Battle of Culloden, about 30 miles north of Ruthven Barracks. Most of the Jacobites had understood that in the event of defeat, survivors of the battle were to make their way to Ruthven Barracks, where they would regroup. Up to 3,000 men gathered at Ruthven over the course of the next few days, and they had high hopes of being able to continue with the military campaign. Bonnie Prince Charlie, however, did not seem to know of this rendezvous at Ruthven, probably because he had never tolerated any discussion about the possibility of defeat during his councils of war. After the battle, he fled west to Loch Ness, rather than south to Ruthven. Compelled at last by the reality of defeat to consider the idea of a rallying point, he seems to have believed that he would meet remnants of his army at Fort Augustus. When he reached Fort Augustus, there was, of course, no one there. But by that time, he wasn't looking to continue the fight. He had decided that he would head for the Western Isles, where he hoped to find a ship that would enable him to escape to France. He sent a message containing the order that his army disband. This message did not reach the Jacobites at Ruthven until Sunday, the 20th of April, 4 days after the Battle of Culloden.
The message came from Bonnie Prince Charlie. Let every man seek his safety in the best way he can. This was devastating news to the troops at the barracks here, and they had to disperse. And there's a couple of accounts I've got here from people who were there. Captain James Johnston, also known as the Chevalier de Johnston, left this account. Our separation at Ruthven was truly affecting. We bade one another an eternal adieu. No one could tell whether the scaffold would not be his fate. The Highlanders gave vent to their grief in wild howlings and lamentations. Another man who was present was John Daniel. He was an English Jacobite from Lancashire, and he wrote, "Some went one way, some another. Those who had French commissions surrendered, and their example was followed by my colonel, Lord Balmerino, though he had none. Many went for the mountains, all being uncertain what to do or whither to go.
Ruthven Barracks today look pretty much as they did when the Jacobite army dispersed in 1746. Not a lot has happened between then and now. But one interesting little fact is that in 1967 the barracks provided a spectacular setting for the first televised performance of the song Flower of Scotland by the Corries. This song became massively popular, and today it is often performed at sporting events as the unofficial national anthem of Scotland.